Tonight's meeting to order. If you would, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Pam, would you do a roll call, please?
Mayor Kime.
Here.
Alderwoman Dobbs. Here. Alderman Fahey.
Nope.
Alderman Donovan.
Here.
Alderman Huey.
Here.
Alderman Eidman. Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Prince.
Here.
Alderman Steiger.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will look for approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, sounds like I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I don't believe we have any presentations or personal appearances tonight, so we will skip along to the city administrator's report.
You got an updated report at your seat. We will have asphalt milling starting Monday, the anticipated, I guess, unless there's weather permitting. We're going to walk it tomorrow with Dean and Chris Bowman to look at the areas that they have questions about. They plan on paving starting Wednesday, so getting the milling machine ahead of them, and that way they can then pave in behind them. So this is the project we're trying to get done before school starts, so we'll have about a month to get all that done. Budget meeting started this week, working on the first draft. We'll give that to you on August 14th, if not before, with time off and the way the schedule's working out, it probably isn't going to be until the 14th. Trying to work on the balanced general fund, where we have 50% reserves. But we'll get that to you and give you all the paperwork on the 14th. And then we have a meeting on the 21st to talk about capital items with the department heads. So keep that on your calendar, please. Fish and Wildlife has approved the conveyance of the property east of the levee. That's about 179 acres, part of the Middle Mississippi River National Wildlife Refuge. Next step is the title transfer. That's supposed to be done locally, just waiting for that to come through. We can sign off on that. That should be the end of it. Then it'll become officially Fish and Wildlife property. McBride is submitting plans and a planned unit development application on Progress Parkway property. That will be at next Thursday's planning and zoning meeting. That starts at 6 o'clock. I'll probably get the committee together to look at the latest set of plans that they've submitted, just to get some input and then see what we want to discuss with planning and zoning next Thursday. Yes, sir.
Those changes from planning and zoning and stuff, my understanding that will be effective only in this subdivision, correct?
Yep.
All right. Nowhere else in the city, just there.
Just there. Yeah. If you're working out a deal and arrangement and allowing certain things and they're giving certain things. Any questions? Other questions?
I had one other one, Happy. This Fish and Wildlife is 179 acres. What's the loss of revenue? We were renting part of that out for crop ground, weren't we?
Probably about 5,000 to 6,000.
Okay.
It wasn't a lot. The majority of it's on the west side.
Okay. No, somebody asked me and I didn't know what it was, but
We've been in contact with the farmer out there, and he's aware and has signed off on it. So.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Shannon. We will move along to additional staff reports tonight.
David Bowman is
Not here.
Not gonna be here.
Okay.
It'll be Kenny.
Okay. You do have David's report in your packet, so if you want to peruse that, you can. And I guess you can direct questions to him outside of the meeting. So next up tonight, staff reports, we have Chief Steiger.
Good evening, everyone. You should have a copy of my report. Staffing's holding steady right now. We did 25 calls in June. And it brings us to a total of 144. If we keep that pace up, we will be at an all-time record again this year for number of calls. We just finished all of our annual testing. So we did the SCBAs, the pump testing, not pump resting, as I had in my report, had a little typo there. And we finished our ladder testing yesterday, and all of our equipment has passed without any problems. So I want to give a shout out to my maintenance crew. They do a great job keeping everything up to speed. And I got a sorry Charlie letter on the firehouse subs grant last week, but I was able to get back in there and reapply today. So I've got another request in.
Say that again.
We applied for $40,000 from Firehouse Subs organization, and I got a sorry Charlie letter last week on Thursday, but they opened it back up today. So I sat down and did another application today, try to get it back in there again. Other than that, we're getting into our busy season for PR. So we did the fireworks standby. We're doing a parade tomorrow with the county fair. We're doing a demo derby standby. We got a whole bunch of PR stuff going on. So open to any questions.
That all the vehicles, I know, and here the ladder, I saw the ladder truck getting tested. It passed, or you haven't heard back?
Yeah, everything passed. We did the ladder truck, and we always do all of our ground ladders too. That way it was always a CYA thing, because if anything, whatever, anybody get injured, we at least had it documented that everything was tested and passed certification. So it wouldn't be on the city, it'd be something else.
Any news on the fire district proceedings or?
Slow progress. We're in the organization forum right now. We have announced who our board members are. Jeff Weiler's the president, Scott Drury is the secretary, and Joan Hook is our treasurer. We've started things like we've opened up our checking account now, getting ready for hopefully someday having some money in it and passing what ordinances and things that we have to do to get things organized. I'm in the process now of starting to do some of the paperwork on getting our vendors switched over, or getting them aware that when we make the switch that we'll be taking over as a fire district and separating from the city as far as vendors and things. I'm working on all that.
As the county collects those taxes and stuff like that, how quick does that transfer over?
We've been told that we may start seeing some as early as mid-December, but don't plan on it. The best thing that they're telling us right now is they probably figure on January, late January, before you actually have a good number. They should be able to give us an estimate on what it's going to be, but they won't give us any money until probably January.
Any other questions for Chief Steiger? Thank you, Chief. At this time, we will open up the floor to public comment. So any and all public comment is welcome. Okay, if there is no public comment, then we will move along to tonight's consent agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. And then we just have one item of old business tonight. We have a second reading of bill number 4677. This is an ordinance approving a budget amendment to the city of St. Genevieve for the fiscal year 2025 budget relating to various revenue and expenditure increases.
Have a little bit of a discussion about that. I wanted to clarify some comments in the paper and stuff about my position on this. I'm not against the ferry. I'm just questioning the $25,000 amount due to lack of information. And that lack of information was, one, do we have the funds that we could afford it? No information there. And before the meeting, Happy, you shared with us that we would have the opportunity to approve any expenditures before that. That's new information also that I wasn't aware of. But
Say that again, Bob. I'm sorry. Say that last part again. That we would be able to approve.
They'll have to submit,
we'll be able to approve.
not the board, your approved
Right, well,
expenditure, but then
Right.
we'll request that whatever expenses are requested, that we get an invoice from.
the city has the
Board
final
Authority.
approval and stuff, but the only thing I want to state again is, this is a lot of money. Most of the people that I've talked to about this are, as the paper said, pretty much against it. Some people were very against it. Of taking city funds for something like this. If I could feel there was a more concentrated effort by those people working up to this point, I know there's some possibility from, something from the state of Illinois, due to some French connection up in Chicago, which I think that's a long, long shot, but if there was some type of repayment to the city, I'm just, half of this amount would be a lot easier to go along with rather than the full amount of 25,000. But that's my opinion and a lot of the people in my ward.
Jeremy.
I have a few comments.
Yes.
My question is that we were told 70% of people that rode the ferry were first from Illinois. So I would like to know, what kind of number are we looking at? 70% of what?
Kitty, I think that was the same question that I asked. We had 70%, but was it 70% of 50, 70% of 100, 70% of 10,000? Percentages don't tell you anything. It's actual head count when you're looking for usages, was my feelings, and that's all the information we had. It was a lack of a lot of information.
So in your packet, Jeremy Tanz is here to explain what that 70% is, so we can go through all those particulars. Yeah. To maybe answer those questions. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to let you know.
I know the ferry's been down quite often. High water, low water, mechanics, state registration or something. So what is the track record of the ferry? I mean, how many days during the year has it operated of hauling people or vehicles?
It's going to vary depending upon obviously what's going on with the river. So some years are going to be better than others, but we don't have those numbers in front of us.
Right, we don't.
Right, but it may be in the packet, some of that information. But nobody asked for those numbers ahead of time. We could have, brought them to this meeting, but I didn't hear that was a question. So.
But happy if I go to an organization and ask for $25,000, it's my responsibility to have my ducks in order and to say this is why I need it. But just lack of information is hard.
Right.
And you do have some of that, Alderman Donovan, and say in your packet that they have here, we have Jeremy and to be able to ask some of these questions. So I don't know if they're prepared to kind of speak to some of those numbers, or you've got a list here of about 8, 9, 10, some of the various reasons for the increase in cost of the operation of the ferry. So you do have some of that information. I don't know about the exact ridership numbers, but some of the cost increases are here.
I do touch on some of that in here because these are based off of the survey results. We conducted a survey of the riders from February 15th through March 7th. Of those, we had 1,903 respondents to that survey. 76 of those were people 76% of those, a little over 14,000, were actual people that rode the ferry. The rest were people that hadn't ridden the ferry in the last 12 months. Of those ones that didn't ride the ferry, there was like 42% were just, they would ride the ferry, but there were just reasons they didn't. There was scheduling, like it wasn't open when they wanted to ride it. They weren't aware of when it was open and closed. It was kind of some of those types of things. So even with the people that said, no, don't ride the ferry, there was opportunity there to get those to ride the ferry.
What about ridership numbers? Do you have any ridership numbers? I know I'm also curious, like what the last 3-year average was. Do you have any ridership numbers?
So I'll kind of get into that in a couple of slides.
Okay.
I'll have those. Um, so when we asked why they rode the ferry, like recreation tourism was the largest one. That was almost 79% of the responses. Uh, and then kind of those, like 87.5% were round trip. So they went back and across.
What was that number?
Excuse me?
What was that number around trip?
Round trip is 87.5% of the people that ride. You can go to the next slide. So this is kind of our historical averages there in the red and then the black is the actual percentage of respondents. So of the respondents to the survey, 95.7% were cars, pickups, SUVs, just single vehicles. Historically, that's more like the 61%. And then down at the back, if you look at an average from 2009 to 2022, the ferry carried just under 21,000 passengers annually in that time, on an annual average through that time frame. Now in 2022, that's when the ferry hit dry dock for Coast Guard inspection and renovation. It was down from April of 22 to April of 23.
That's the first time that's happening. Was those the new standards that
There was the new standards at him. So our ferry happened to be the first ferry under Coast Guard regulations for inspection. River ferry. Prior to that, it was marine ferries. So we got lucky.
But on average, the ferry has 21,000 roughly
And that's
passengers. So I think that was the number that you were looking for.
now,
That's not,
full disclosure, that is running full time.
Yep.
The ferry is now down to one pilot, so it's only running 3 days a week. Over the last 10 months, we have 10 months of reporting over the last fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30th. So we have 10 months of reporting in for that time frame. And we're a little under 4,900 passengers for the year, running 3 days a week.
Sure. Well, I would have never guessed it was even 5,000 for the limited schedule that you have. So I would have never guessed it was that high.
If you go to the next slide, we kind of have a little. So this was based off of the responses. Where did you travel from? So almost 66% are coming from Illinois. Another 33% are going from Missouri over to Illinois. And then we had some random travelers through there and those are people that kind of in their responses, when you look at them, they're taking large trip and they decided to come through here because of it's not a lot of people. I mean, it's, 5-6 people maybe total, but those are people that came through St. John that may have not otherwise. The next slide. So this is where people are going to. So 67% to Missouri. The reason the difference there is there's a lot of people started in St. John, or it started in Missouri, went to Illinois, and then came back. So they reported their round trip, but we went back and from to the same state. But the top 10 locations, St. John was the top response there. St. Genevieve was 47.32%. That was the actual destination listed by the people. That's where they were going. If you kind of look through there, those top 5, they add up to 67% of the total responses. Those remaining 33%, a lot of those were just kind of general different answers. So there was several that were just listed Missouri. And then there were some that listed things like wineries or historic park or some things like that. So those didn't show up in the percentages, but they are still St. Genevieve visit. So that number is a little bit higher than what's really represented on that sheet. Okay, next. So travel times, I don't know, this is probably another thing that you don't really think about, but those are some travel times and distances. This is just using Google Maps, kind of going from center of city in St. John to some these locations. Ellis Grove is kind of if you're going south, Ellis Grove is kind of your cutoff point. If you're going any further south than Ellis Grove, It doesn't really make much sense time-wise or distance-wise. Distance maybe, but time-wise to take the ferry if you're going south. But if you're going across and north, you can kind of see those there. So the average difference there is you save about 10 minutes of time and about 28 miles on average by taking the ferry rather than having to go down to Chester or up to St. Louis. And these are just some of the comments that were shared on there. Again, majority of them were ferry riders, so a lot of the comments were in support of and wanting to keep it. There was a lot of, and these are just summaries from responses. But at the very bottom of that sheet, there's a couple of quotes that I pulled just for reference. One was from, you can say, as a merchant in, I don't know who these were, but as a merchant in St. Genevieve, they have a little quote there. And then there's someone from Prairie du Rocher had another similar quote. So here's the financial conditions. So the insurance on the ferry has risen 32.6% 2001. We just finally got our quote for this coming year that'll start in August. It is down a little bit, not much, but a little bit. So a little bit of savings there, but that's kind of based upon we only have one pilot instead of two. So if we do end up hiring a second pilot to do full time, that rate will probably jump again and be a little bit higher than it was last year. Again, pilot salaries are a problem because they can easily make more money than they can on the ferry. And then there are subsidies. So the MoDOT subsidy is $88,000. That's what we get annually for operations. That typically lasts 6 or 7 months and it's gone. We were able to have 5311 transit funds through ARPA that kind of kept us going the last couple of years. And we have still been working with leadership in Illinois to try to get something from that side of the state during that time frame. But haven't had a lot of movement on that. We did apply for a new 5311 grant that requires a 50-50 match. We did get notice that they will award that, but when we got the contract, they had some new clausing in there for insurance requirement that we're trying to get clarification on, whether they're actually required for the ferry or what that would do to our insurance rates if it is. The clause seems to be written more for vehicle transit, buses, and that type of thing. So I don't know if it really applies to the ferry, but we're waiting on legal for MoDOT to make a determination on that. But it is a 50-50 match. We will match that with that $88,000. So that covers $88,000 of that grant, which leaves the $12,000 that we need match for. So that's kind of our gap. We're looking at the April and May expenses. So we have those numbers now. We had operating loss of $18,716.51 for those 2 months. They'll probably have another operating loss of close to $10,000 I'm expecting for June. But again, we'd only be requesting half. So we may not need that full 25. It was just the request at the time when we were looking at what our trends were at that point.
I guess over the life of the ferry, looking at your 3-year average annual loss of $55,000, it's $165,000 in 3 years. How do you absorb those how have you absorbed it? Did you have reserves? Did you have?
It was, so the 5311 has covered that for the last 3-4 years. Prior to that, the losses weren't quite as bad because they were operating full time. They had a little more revenue. And then, the operators were able to kind of get in and supplement that themselves to get a gap to cover those last couple of months. But, when you go back 4 or 5 years, that $88,000 would last more like 9-10 months. They were only having to gap a couple of months instead of half the year.
So you're saying before this last 3 years, the losses weren't 55,000?
Not quite.
But close.
Yeah.
That's hard to maintain an operation continually losing.
It is.
You reduce the hours of operation, what's it, 3 days, 4 days, what was it?
It went to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, so 3 days.
And that was mainly because we're down to one pilot and he's only going to operate Friday, Saturday.
Okay, 'cause my understanding, the pilot is upper in age,
Mhm.
and it's hard to find another pilot because of the cost. What guarantees this ferry is gonna run after we give you the money? If you can't find a pilot, or if the person retires, where are you gonna find a pilot?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that. That is a problem and it'll be the next hurdle we have to jump. We just need to get to that hurdle. I know the current pilot is on his last renewal of his pilot's license. So once his next renewal comes up, he will be too old to be able to renew.
Okay, so you'd be without a pilot.
We would definitely have to have a new pilot by then.
How many years is that?
I'm not sure.
And since you reduced the week, is there any peak periods of time, like you can just run the ferry during that period of time and not run it all year?
In the past, it was closed over the winter. So it would close November, December, January.
Okay,
Mhm.
but not other times.
Mhm.
And you should know exactly, like, is there one person using it? Or is there like 15 or 100 using it? To go to some kind of a function?
So, I mean, in that month, we had 1,900 responses and the majority of those were different people. So,
At different times.
yeah, over the course of that 3 weeks.
So there wasn't a whole lot of people coming over to Jersey Fat.
We didn't do the survey at Jurdafet, but there were, I'd have to look and see what the numbers were on that.
I mean, you have the data, it just didn't.
We do
you don't
have it.
rate
We just don't
experience.
have- I don't have
We didn't ask beforehand what,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because we do maintain data on how many vehicles cross, how many passengers cross, how many lost days there are in a month, and I can get all that data to you.
We've got the first reading completed last meeting. If we amend this reading, do we need a second reading if we make an amendment to it?
What would the amendment be?
The total price of the funds that we would be gifting?
Well, this is a budget change, so
Just change,
you know, you're not specifically authorizing any particular expenditure by making this budget modification. However, you would end up allowing the administration to use the funds for that purpose, up to that amount.
my question still stands, can we amend this on a second reading?
Yes, yes.
I move we amend the project to 15,000.
So you're amending Exhibit A to reflect $15,000. That's all we really
Yeah,
have to
Exhibit
amend,
A,
right?
correct.
To 15,000 rather than 25,000. Okay. So you need a second, you need a voice vote.
Does that mean they can come back to us in 30 days, or we're not limiting ourselves to this is it, or we are?
We could always pass another budget amendment.
You know, this information does help. You know, I wish we would have had it a lot sooner. It would have made it a lot easier, but 15,000 is a lot easier.
It's a second.
Okay, so there is a motion to amend the exhibit to 15,000 from 25,000.
I'll second it.
Did you? Okay, so I have a motion and a second for the amendment. This is not the vote on the actual resolution, this is the ordinance. So this is just the vote to amend it. Okay, so we're just going to do a voice vote. So I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So it's been amended.
Move to approve bill number 4677.
Okay. I have a motion. I do need a second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Pam, would you do a roll call, please?
Alderwoman Dobbs.
Yes.
Alderman Fahy. Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Huey.
I'll have to abstain. No financial interest in that.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
No.
Alderman Steiger.
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no, 1 absent, 1 abstaining. Bill number 4677 now becomes ordinance 4600.
Thank you all very much. Jeremy, thank you for the info. Appreciate it very much. That concludes our scheduled business. The meeting, is there anything else to discuss at this time? Okay.
I got one more.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to Happy, but I just want to go. We're doing some of the new logos on a few of the vehicles now. I just would like to push forward to do some signage or logos on the Alliance Building and Public Works Building. They put those privacy white paint or whatever on there. And it looks abandoned, so it'd be probably pretty nice to put some of the new logos down there on the Public Works Building. So if we can figure out what that might cost down the road. Maybe get some numbers on what that might cost.
Okay. You can get that for us. Okay, great. Anything else to discuss at this time then? Okay. Oh, sorry. My apologies. I missed a closed session here at the bottom here. So we will move into, if you guys choose to, into closed session.
What's the purpose?
Negotiated contract.
Move to go into closed session for contracts.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Move into closed session. Pam, would you do a roll call, please?
Alderman Steiger.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Huey.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan.
Yes.
Alderman Fahy.
Yeah.
Alderwoman Dobbs left. Motion carries at 6:33.
All right.
Yeah. Battery operated.
Okay.
I do too.
We are back from closed session. If there's no other items to discuss right now, then I will adjourn this meeting and we will move to the work session. Thank you very much. Go ahead and call tonight's work session to order. At this time, we are looking for approval of tonight's agenda.
Approve or second.
Either one.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First item up tonight, we have a couple stop sign proposals to look over. Second and Market, Second and Merchant, Maple and Virginia. These are currently, are they currently three ways?
No, you have side streets at the
two ways.
top, and then
And then a
the
three-way.
through street. The other Maple and Virginia was a dead end, so
Yes.
you just hung it right. Now you have the possibility of 4 different, ways, or 3. Is it 3? I haven't gone out there since they put the street in. So maybe a 3.
Well, there's
By the
already-
trial
the
development.
upper entrance is down a little ways from the actual intersection.
Right.
Sir, you're talking about putting a stop sign on Market Street at Second Street.
No,
Why?
I am not in favor of that at all.
No.
That's the request.
Why?
Why?
That's the request.
Denied.
No, wait, hang on.
So we're talking about Second and Merchant, it says it's because of due to visibility, Second and Market is due to speeding, Virginia and Maple are due to the Early Childhood Education Center.
All right.
Yeah, I asked for one as they come out of the early childhood, they get on to Maple. There'd be just one stop sign that way is that we're not stopping the traffic, making the corner to go around to pick up at school. You know,
Well, but that's gonna be you're looking at a through street eventually, if you want to keep that as a through street, but what about Virginia?
Does Virginia stop there?
no,
Right, so.
no, they just move around. And I think if you put a stop sign there on all three, you're gonna create congestion coming out of the early childhood center. That's not necessary, I think.
And
think we
I'm
should
not
build
stop
around
signs
them.
on hills. Yeah, that's not good.
Well, you should know how to drive a stick by now.
Okay.
On Second Market and Second Market.
I'm a no on that one too. I don't see people speeding down that road and I go down that road every day.
I'm a no on all three, so.
Say the Virginia and Maple one again, because I'm trying to think what's the proposal?
Just
Right now, there's no stop sign in any way, shape, or form at that curve. But with the childhood center adding basically Maple extending out, you're asking for a stop sign coming out of the childhood center.
right onto Washington.
Is that Virginia gonna
Maple.
extend down to the subdivision?
Maple, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Will Virginia still extend down to the substation? Or will that,
It goes down.
Maple actually does.
Yeah, that's
$65,000 additional concrete street extends down to the
if
substation.
you go past the new school and back around to the substation?
Yeah, well, I mean, you go at the end and then it's right past the school and to the right.
Past the school and down.
Yeah, it goes completely past the school, makes a 90-degree left.
So what it shows now is Virginia is that it turns into that gravel road to go back to the substation.
Right, yes. the new
It still
street.
calls that Virginia. That,
No, that would be Maple.
that's technically Maple. I mean, it would be because Maple
No,
continues.
he's talking about, it's a gravel road that extended past Maple.
Oh,
that went down.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's what's
Yeah.
down at the end of Maple.
Yeah, that's how citizens access the substation before.
yeah. So Joe, not that one. Sorry.
That'll be
But-
common.
So that's going to go away. So what you have is
okay, it's gonna go away.
yeah, and then so what he's asking for is a stop sign coming out of the childhood center onto Maple.
But not on Virginia or Maple, so that traffic continue to go on around there. We're not asking them to stop there, so that traffic flow on around and hopefully
You're
clear
just
out.
asking for one stop sign
Yes,
coming out of the early childhood. center.
yes.
And you think, how is that gonna help, you think?
Well, I mean, otherwise it's free range, free range.
Yeah, you need to go somewhere, or all three here or not. I
Because-
don't know.
These people are gonna stop. These people are not gonna,
But
these
they're
people
going
are
to
not
want to
gonna
keep
know
them
what these two are doing.
straight.
Usually you do them across from each other or you do one.
Yes.
I'm for the one just.
Are you wanting Virginia to keep wrapping around that way, but the traffic coming up Maple to
No,
Virginia to
dead
stop
ends
as
at
well?
Maple.
Correct. Well, I'm talking about if they were traveling on Virginia to Maple, or you're wanting that traffic to continue to go without a stop.
Both ways.
I don't know how you do that with Maple because you're going to have people going this way not stopping, and then people trying to go to early childhood not stopping.
Oh,
You're going to have two.
yeah.
I want to start with one stop.
Well, I was trying to wrap my head around it for a second. I was trying to get how
You
the,
could
You probably
stop
have to.
Virginia.
One on Virginia.
I just didn't want to impede the traffic coming around to pick up at the schools.
well, you could if you put a stop sign at Virginia there, you could sit at that stop sign for
Yeah, and then they just.
a while, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Go.
With the education center now there, you've got more through traffic as opposed to just sitting there and hanging it right.
Yeah, because everybody just goes in a loop. Now you're going to have traffic. Some of it's going to go in a loop and some of it's going to go
You're
straight.
going to have traffic stop there going all the way around to the school, then you're going to have traffic bypassing
This is
to the early childhood, I imagine, because now they're actually backed up.
He already said that. So you already stopped at Ridgeway anyway. You're already stopping traffic at that.
Yes.
So if you stop them at Maple, you're not gonna make that much difference in that block, I would think.
It just might. Yeah.
But you'd reduce the potential confusion at that intersection.
I'm telling you, if they keep the younger lady up there doing the scanning,
These two stops.
she clears that traffic out of there. Hardly on that one block of Virginia, when she's there, there's hardly any cars there because she's moving them out somehow. She's getting out there earlier or something is changing that traffic pattern there and how much it empties out on that one block of Virginia Street. Somehow, I mean, I've seen her standing at the corner of Maple and Virginia. Of course, that's what I asked the school to do, and
I almost think it has to be a three-way stop. I just can't envision a way in my mind that you're gonna move
You
all
could have
that.
it two stop signs and somebody gets the right of way and then we kind of.
Yeah, I just feel like if you make Maple the two stops, so coming out and going in, this is just gonna keep I mean, I don't know.
How much traffic?
How confusing is that gonna be?
No, it's just like a.
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm not saying it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. I don't know if there's a really good solution for this because that, other than building a road out to 61.
Roundabout.
you get on that right now.
Man, I'm speaking it out there.
Right.
That's where we're
I
talking.
mean, that's.
This room.
Roundabout's the way to go. That's gonna-
I think we put the one stop sign up for now. Maybe let's put a caution sign, but like I said, until we can see how the traffic's gonna flow up there.
Question.
That's why I asked not to do the
Satellite actually has it on.
until we can see how
They
everything
want.
flows up there once school starts. It's gonna take a week or two, just like it did when traffic was routed up there before things finally fell into place.
On the school side.
We are, okay,
Yeah.
are we gonna restrict their ability to make a left coming out of the childhood center
On to Virginia?
onto Virginia? Because if not, I think we should,
That's the point,
because that traffic could just keep going.
and it's gonna run into the
Right.
pickup traffic school.
Well, but you don't want them going, you don't want them going down Virginia out of the childhood center.
Right.
I think there's no reason for them.
Turn left on Virginia out of.
I don't think they would either unless they feel like, I don't know. But I think if you make a no left turn there coming out of that, I think that would be a decent
That's it.
thing to do because then this traffic has no fear of a car turning in front of them at that point. All the childhood center traffic would just
Go
go
right.
down Maple. And then man,
That's gonna be a mess.
that's gonna be a tough one. You got any thoughts?
Which part?
Three-way.
All the way
we
around.
Stop, we
That's,
stop all lanes.
they keep
and
coming back to that. Does
there's
it
no-
have to be a three-way?
Try two stop signs, no left turn.
Which, just Maple stopping? I was thinking if you just kept the traffic coming out of the childhood center going, but I don't think you could do that either because somebody's going to attempt to make a left-hand turn even if we tell them not to. But if we put signage up there
Right.
out of this, no left turn out of that,
I just thought the least amount of stop sign would keep traffic moving better.
I agree 100%. I just think it's a really difficult intersection.
And that's why I say start with one, we can see what it does, and
Yeah.
then see, but the no left turn, I thought that's a good point.
Yeah,
But you really only need the no left turn when there's school in session.
correct.
So that could be.
I would just rather people get into a habit of not making a left turn out of there, but,
Yeah.
you know, if somebody did it in the evening and there was nobody around, it's really gonna matter, you know? I watch people make U-turns on the highway all the time. You know, there's signs everywhere that say don't make a U-turn.
Not done, right?
I didn't hear.
I wonder, do we have any, has the school district talked to us about how they're going to route traffic to that?
Yes. Yes, there was a meeting at school that we had over posting no parking on Virginia Street. And they went to another, school district somewhere else that had that. And basically they're gonna route their weight pickup lines around their parking lot he said around their building, but the parking lot doesn't go all the way around the building, but they feel they could house most of those cars in their parking lot, which just basically goes down the extended Maple Street. It would make a turn down there and come back up. They have a pretty large parking lot there. So I think they've got ample room there, and they're talking about 90 kids, which, you know, more than likely be 90 pickups, but that's not all at one time. I think there's
Good job.
partial days and full days.
So on a typical school day, I don't go down that direction. Like mine's limited to where the elementary, middle school, high school is. Like, so I don't go to Maple on a school day. I haven't been by there like for the morning pickup.
You got a good guy.
Do they loop around Maple, up Virginia and around Ridgeway and around?
No, the other.
Not when they're driving.
The other way. So they go down Washington, up Ridgeway and around?
Yep.
Yeah. Or you have to
But
go
not
on
down-
9. You have to go on, what is that? It's not 9, it's 8. So you have to go up 8.
And then over to Ridgeway?
And then you come around, you drop them off at the bridge and you go up and out.
And then
Yeah,
do you
there's
go out 9th Street?
You can go out any street you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of them come down and go out 9th Street,
So they're not really lining up around Virginia and Ridgeway and that area?
only at the end of the day.
Only at pickup. Pickup's the opposite.
Okay, so
At
pick up.
at the end of the day, they're backed up all the way from 9th Street to Maple, across Virginia, all the way down to the school on Ridgeway.
Say that one more
And-
time. Say that one more. On pickup, they.
On pickup time, without the early
Back up
childhood,
from the bridge, all the way down Ridgeway.
one block of Maple, all the way down, Virginia.
Yeah.
All the way down Maple to 9th Street, and sometimes I've seen a half a dozen cars sitting on 9th Street.
But when they come up 9th Street, turn left onto Maple
Yes,
and start that process. Get around.
start the whole loop around.
Or child.
And what happens if they try to cheat and go down Rother or something like that? You get stink eye if you try to cheat and do.
Stink eye, or you might be lead or something. I'm not sure what you.
It is a very well, the process
Pretty
goes
well.
fast. I mean, you're not,
I mean, there were people complaining about cigarette butts getting tossed out of cars. People complaining about cars sitting there in the summer running for an hour, you know, with the air conditioner on. There's, you know, especially the houses that are real close to the road, you know, but
Or
one
2
person
stop signs or
actually-
3 stops.
actually
like the only-
backed up, knocked the person's car all the way into their yard on Ridgeway. But don't know what she was doing, but she was in line.
I talked with Martha last year. Last year I talked with Martha
It's gotta be a
about that.
three-way. I just
Possibly
don't know of
line up
any other way to do it.
inside by the fields there.
If you just
Sure.
put them on Maple.
There are
what's the
very clear
problem?
detail of that, that they
And
can
no
put 80
left
cars back
turn
there,
from.
come out the gate,
Maple to
put them all by the tax center. All that,
Then that,
the 80 cars there.
I mean,
You never need to
I
technically
drove
come out
the
of
line.
early childhood and make a left onto Virginia.
Yeah, that needs to be no left.
but I think that does need to be. But then does that prohibit somebody from going to early childhood center, picking somebody up and then turning left onto Virginia and getting in the pickup line for another child that may be at the elementary school?
At corner
You
of the
would,
street.
you would cheat and go to Rother
No.
and get the stink eye.
I mean, you could.
They have to come down the block and make.
I mean, I guess you could just go down to the end of the line and
Just
get
make a
wherever
U.
the line is. You could go to the end of the line.
But you're gonna miss your kid anyway. If you're picking up early childhood, you're not gonna probably be able to get both kids. I don't know if there's enough time to be able to do that.
Mark here's his truck.
Unless you're the first person in early childhood.
you can get your kids at early
Why
childhood
don't
at
you
any
walk
time
down
of the
there and get
day.
a breath and sit there for 45 minutes?
Well, you would think they would have to go get those kids first, those are the young ones,
We
yeah.
gave them an intersection, we kind of explained.
So
Do they
they-
offer any kind of like, hey, well, this is what, based on what our engineers and traffic patterns, this is what we would recommend, or is
They don't
that?
have anything that specific, but
Okay.
I mean, they could do they have a grant program that you can ask an engineer. It's like $10,000 that you can get a grant and then hire an engineer to look at that and give you a,
They're just gonna tell us to do a roundabout.
I'm telling you.
I mean, it would work, but
Right.
School
It would keep it
districts were
flowing.
going to try to contact as many people, I don't know if they have, and basically tell them, don't get up there and get in line any sooner than you have to. Because it's kind of odd, you can sit there for an hour and 10 minutes if you want to be up front in line, or you can wait that, and then you can make that loop in 10 minutes. That's what, that's a,
so what if we did this? What if we did this? I think we have a overwhelming no to the Merchant and Market Street. Okay. What if we brought Dr. Taylor here to talk about this Virginia Maple intersection? Try to get an understanding of what they're envisioning and maybe how many people they expect to be traversing through there. And then maybe we can, I just think collaboration with them, I think,
Love their input.
yeah. I
It needs
just,
to happen.
well, it needs to happen fast. I think we need to try to get them to a meeting. I don't want to like kick the can down the road, but I feel like we're having a conversation without a pretty important piece of the puzzle here. I think it's important to, they may be able to fill in some of the blanks we're talking about here about what they're expecting.
Is that big fancy street up there
Yeah.
wide enough to put a turn lane, left turn lane?
I doubt it.
and Maple.
The
New concrete street.
I think
Well-
it's 30 feet wide, so it's not, it's not set up for a center turn lane.
I mean, Maple's plenty wide, but I don't think the.
Well, stand to keep the flow going, if somebody wanted to turn left.
Oh, I agree.
Head through.
Yeah,
Somebody dumb enough want to make a left turn, you got a lane to sit in.
yeah. I think there's a way to get creative with that, but I almost feel like I need to go.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's table this and let's get input.
You want to try to see if we can get him here in 2 weeks then?
I think talk to him and give us his input. You know, I don't think he needs to come. Next 2 weeks,
Okay.
give us input and
I have to talk to him about other things anyway, so I can bring this up if you want. Happy
if
to.
he wants to come, but I don't
You
think he needs to.
wanna-
Just tell
Try
him.
to sit in on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
He's on vacation.
We'll discuss with Dr. Taylor.
Caution about that is they take the path easiest for them.
No, I know, but I do want to, they could probably give
No,
us early registration numbers. So, hey, how many families are we talking about? You know, if they say we only have, I don't know, whatever number
They
may
said
be.
90 is what they
Yeah.
said in the meeting.
I just think it'd be interesting to hear their input, and
Sure.
maybe they've had an engineer input to them. So maybe.
No, they
Okay.
did. They went to and visited other school districts that did the same thing and how they routed traffic. That put some time in it, but
Okay. Okay. So no, table for now. Okay. All right. Item number 2. While we're talking about school, talk about school zones, amended map.
So you have an expanded drawing to cover both schools. Roughly the areas that we have been discussing. This gives you a better visual. Again, we're looking at increasing the school zone fines up to $250 minimum plus court costs. But is this the areas that you're thinking of?
Yeah, looks good. I would only ask about Ridgeway up there. You don't want to jag up a little bit where the bridge is.
Now, you're talking about including Maple, Virginia, Ridgeway, that loop right there?
Is that 8th and Ridgeway? Where the bridge is, the corner up there?
Yeah, it's
Extending it up.
8th and Ridgeway.
Yeah.
But are you wanting it to go up Maple and Virginia and around that?
Or do you want to just go up 9th over Ridgeway and then down 8th?
Alderman Donovan, I know that you're very familiar with that area. Is that
Maple might get it.
Maple's gonna have some traffic now?
gonna have yeah, for a period of time, it will have a lot of traffic during the day, but I haven't seen anybody up there speeding. They're just parked. You know,
But now they'll have somewhere to speed to and from.
And it's gonna be a nice street.
Well, enforcement. Get a good start on enforcement, they'll take care of it.
I think,
Do we like this to start?
yeah,
you ought to go up.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can go up Maple.
Yeah, up Maple,
Over Virginia,
Virginia, and
down Ridgeway.
basically encompass the loop that we just talked about for drop off and pickup kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
I think it's logical to probably include that.
Because you got the early childhood.
Yeah. mean, it's right there. And they're going to be going to the childhood center and leaving the childhood center.
So this is only designating school zones for traffic. If you look at it, there's other things that are designated within a school zone, such as selling or buying drugs within a school zone, but yet we don't have the school campus located within a school zone. You know what I'm saying? We got school zones leading up to the campus.
Well, I think their property is technically
Is it automatically a school zone?
The school. So I'm,
it's their property. It's private property, so they can do whatever. It's their rules.
we're looking at really, ours is particular at this point.
Speeding. Yeah. Ours is just for speed control.
Are there any limitations on my business being inside of a school zone? Limitations to my business being in a school zone?
Grandfather.
Other than traffic.
No, we've got a few businesses in that loop.
Yeah.
As best I can tell. There's several.
That's good.
Move to move ahead with the amended, streets.
The two include Maple, Virginia, Ridgeway, as
Oh, yeah.
discussed. Okay. What's vote on that?
I'd like to have a school zone down South Gabourey and South 10th Street too, because that's the racetrack.
Everybody good with that?
I gotta bring an ordinance in.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah,
what I gotta-
we'll come back. So. All right. Good work. Everybody, anything else? Yes, sir.
If we talk about speed limits,
Yes, let's reduce them, or
you know,
increase.
if you drive 20 miles an hour in town, you must be walking. Well, you know how that is. Nobody drives 20 miles an hour. I think we should up speed limit of the 25 and then be 20 in the school zone. We're 30 when we come into town. Aren't we 30 going out Market?
Yeah, 10th Street, I think.
10th Street and going out?
We fixed your potholes, now you want to increase the speed limit.
So I think the idea on the 20 mile an hour speed limit is most people are gonna go 25. And then you're gonna be ticketing soon after.
25 and 30. 30's a little fast, I tried that. you know. 25 is fast.
So,
It's more safe.
are we changing the speed limit, Judge?
I'm sorry.
It was a big.
Yeah, we're gonna do it during school hours, or the common phrase anymore is when children are present.
That gal from,
Yeah.
from the thing, instead of
It was
a.
gonna be 20.
Yeah, during school hours, when children
Which
are
is the
present.
speed limit. I understand that you're fine. That they're
Well, it's in the,
speeding.
We got,
Actually,
both sides fits it.
that's the offense.
yeah, like she said.
All right. Everybody good? Anything else at this time?
Move to adjourn.
Okay. We will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all.
Oh, heavy.